Today's the last day of April 2018. Kate, we're moving forward. We're almost there with the kids, with the twins.
Oh, the home stretch.
Home stretch is almost happening.
We can hold on till mid-June. That would be ideal.
That would be ideal.
Oh, man. It was awesome talking to Meridian, though, a little before the show because
she offered some
really good insight for, she is the queen of homeopathy.
Mm-hmm.
So today we're going to be adding some stuff in for the contractions and the cramping that's been getting slowly more and more intense. And hopefully maybe tonight and the coming week I can sleep a little better and let these guys cook a little bit easier.
We'll take it.
It is the last of the month, though. It is wild. Where does it go?
It goes fast, and it's only going to go faster with kids. Right?
Oh, man
Twins.
above. Man, I was
Boys.
going to say man above. Lord above.
I know, right?
Man
Well, we got
alive.
a great show for you today. We have Meridian Grace. She is an awesome person, and she's been at this for over 40 years, over 50 years, been involved in health and healing and researching and things, but just practicing for almost 40 years. And she's, like I said, the queen of homeopathy. She's into so many cool things, and she's always, every time I listen to her and hear what she's up to, she's always into some new thing.
Right?
You know, and so I think today we're going to be talking about light and some of the work that she's been doing and doing research in that. But man, she's just a wealth of knowledge and helps people from all over the world. In her place in Austin, Texas, and we had the privilege of being there at her house, and that was a lot of fun, wasn't it?
That was super. That's one of my favorite memories. I loved that trip we took.
That was fun.
Got a lot of good things. Just ground covered that trip.
That's right.
Do
we
you
went and saw our doctor, our dentist, Dr. Stuart Nunley, and went over to Dr. Massey's house in Meridian's.
Are you registering on the thing? Because I can't hear you out of my headphone, just to make sure.
Yes.
Okay.
I am registering, and we're good to go.
All right.
Well, hello, Meridian. How are you today?
Oh, I'm just thrilled, happy, excited. It's a precious, beautiful spring day in Austin.
What's the weather there like today?
Well, you know, it's interesting. Right now, it's a little overcast, and we've been having these amazingly sunny days, but it's been cool at night and warm during the day, and we have wildflowers everywhere, and I can go out in the backyard and pick some dandelions for supporting my spring detox, and it's amazing. We even have some blackberries growing wild down by our creek.
Oh,
hey, speaking of your
those
creek,
are the best.
what's the water temp in the creek right now behind your house?
It's still cold because it's actually been going down as low as 40 at night, even though it's been 75, even 85 during the day some days. Wow. So it's still cold in the creek.
Do you take cold plunges?
I don't know if Go ahead.
Oh, no, I'm sorry. I was just wondering if you take cold plunges in it or if you wait for it to warm up.
Well, the truth of the matter is I really do cold plunges. I have a freezer that I set up with water that I hand carried that was filtered from the sink, and it's about 35 degrees.
Ooh.
I'll go in for 15 minutes to do a cold thermogenesis therapy.
So
Justin's eyes are lighting up over here because he's had this on his list.
This is on my list of things to do. So I got to ask you about this. So during the winter months here, the water gets down to about 55 in the ocean, and that's pretty good. That's pretty good for cold thermogenesis. But so
it's
my
perfect,
question is,
honestly. It really is.
What's that?
55 is the ideal number that everybody says, the doctors say, the research has been done on, all that.
Oh, good. So my question for you is, there are two types I've been doing a little research online with cold thermogenesis. You can get like a freezer that is sort of like basically opens from the top, like what you have, or you could get like those metal tubs. Which one are you finding easier to work with?
Well, okay, Justin, I like the freezer.
Okay.
The reason why I like the freezer is I have a timer on it, and I have it set, and I just leave it on for a couple of minutes, and it'll maintain my temperature for me. So you have to do a little bit of figuring out of how long you want the freezer on. Rich loves to show people this picture of me in there with a bunch of ice, because when I first did it, got to 32 degrees and possibly even lower. And I'm sitting there holding a big, long icicle.
Oh, my goodness.
There's ice all around me. And he was just going, Meridian couldn't wait. She had to get in there even when it was frozen. But, and it's a kind of a fun picture. But the bottom line is 55 is incredibly effective. And people want to take this slow if you're going to do it. Because you can actually just start out by putting your face in an ice bath. And I used a snorkel in the beginning. And I would keep my face in the water for 10 minutes. And that's a great way to begin. And when when you're comfortable being in the water, cold water, with your face for 10 minutes, then what I did was kind of wild. I bought a bunch of chamois and I got them wet and I stuck them in the freezer. And I just don't have access to all the ice cubes. Our freezer, we can't use the ice cube maker. If we do, we end up with water all over the floor. Mm-hmm. So I bought these chamois and laid them in the freezer, and then I would wrap them around my legs and my arms in the bathtub.
Oh,
wow.
Yeah. And that was my second stage. And some people that I've talked to have used these ice vests. They're vests that I guess they're similar to the chamois idea, where you moisten them and stick them in the freezer, and then you can put these vests on. So typically, people are going to put the cold where they want to experience it. So a man who has excess visceral fat, belly fat, he might be more interested in doing his belly and his chest than he would be his thighs and, his hips and things like that, and his butt. And a lot of women are interested in doing their arms because they might have, saggier arms or something like that. But to me, the beauty part is nice, okay? It's lovely to have your skin really get that kind of a challenge. It tightens, it gets happy, it gets a lot of blood flow, which is wonderful for detox. But the real deal, and this is something that I learned by having my thermometry equipment, something that's used in Germany for people who have cancer and they want to discover what might be contributing to the cancer. Wherever the body is cold, if you are healthy, the heat from the surface will go into the organs to protect it. So to register how effective the autonomic nervous system is working, we would have people come dressed super warm, even in the summer, long sleeves, all that kind of stuff. I'd use a very sensitive device that reads their temperature on 124 acupuncture points on their body. And then I'd have them just undress down to just underpants and stand in that cooler temperature of 69 to 70 degrees for 10 minutes. And then we would do all the same points again. And if the amount of movement and temperature change on the surface tells us how much has gone inside to the organs. So it's my understanding, although I've never heard this discussed anywhere else than in my thermometry training, that when we do this cold therapy, what we're doing is we are bringing our own resources for self-healing into our organ, where the skin has a relationship to those organs.
So what is the benefit of bringing cold temperature? It's affecting, my understanding is that it's affecting the mitochondria and shortening the electron transport, right? Is that correct?
Well, that's what we understand, and also it helps to lengthen telomeres and all this kind of cool stuff. Wow. But I think the way that it's doing that is by taking the heat from the surface and to protect you so you don't die, because that's the ultimate purpose of the body, of the biology. It's taking the heat from the surface and bringing all that energy, all that fire, all that light, which we're going to be talking about today, into the tissues, into the organs, so that the organs can use the wisdom from their autonomic nervous system to do what they need. So when you're in that cold water and your liver and your kidneys and your your gallbladder and your stomach and your genitals and your lungs and your heart are all, being affected by that cold, the surface area. The heat goes into the organs and it says, okay, body, here's the energy. Use it for what you want.
Okay.
So the body's making its own choices. And to me, that's where the wisdom is. That's why homeopathy is so cool. That's why the cell salt work is so cool. That's why working with light and grounding is so cool, and real foods. These are the things we were designed by nature to use to heal ourselves.
So in terms of light and temperature, like the cold thermogenesis, what, in your experience in the last few years, since you've been really, really diving into this kind of stuff, which one do you think has been affecting your biology more?
I do a lot. So it's really hard for me to differentiate them. I mean, if I was a true scientist, I would do things one at a time and, chart everything and map it. And I'm not. I'm too much of a earth mother.
Yeah, I do the same thing. We both do so much. So it's challenging.
So, but honestly, I don't think there's anything more important than being outside and catching the morning sun, the sunrise. And spending as much as an hour outside in the morning sun with my feet on the ground. We have a nice backyard, so I put on a bikini. If my neighbors didn't see me, I'd probably be naked. But I recently bought the type of fabric for a bikini that actually is supposed to let the sun rays right through it. So that's another little, what they would call, I guess, trick
little hack.
For how to deal with these sorts of things. But the idea is I'm out in the sun as much as my skin will allow without getting burnt. And I'm also sitting on the ground at the same time. When I exercise, I like to do as much of it outside as I can. So one of the pieces I've recently added to my world is I will do these quick bursts of exercise where I'll do 10 squats as fast as I can, 10, lifting my hands up over my head and having my hands in a soft fist and bringing the thumb areas and the index fingers together. I'll do that 10 times. I'll do these fast lifts with my hands, and I'll do 3 sets of those or 4 sets of those. And that's some work that has been talked a lot by Dr. Bush, Zach Bush, and I think even people like Mercola are really into it. But I like to give myself a stimulus to do it. Mm-hmm. And so some of the really big exercise buff guys, every time they go out of their office, for instance, they'll do some kind of set of exercises. Every time they go to get their mail, they'll run to it. They'll, do a bunch of jumping jacks, and they'll come back. Every time they come into the house, they'll do 2 or 3 chin-ups or whatever. I mean, they have these little things that they remind themselves to do. So at least twice a day now. I'd like to get to the point where I'm doing it more often. But my idea is when I go outside to do those, and to the point where I'm sweaty and breathing hard. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's fascinating, isn't it? How simple it is, really. Spending more time outside. Like you look at yourself when you were a kid and how much time we would spend outside versus being an adult. It's like as you get older, there are more and more sort of pulls to being inside. There's the comfort of home, there's a computer, there's a cell phone, and all these things drive you and pull you back inside. But, we all experienced the most robust health, most likely when we were kids. And when we were kids, we were outside playing all day, no sunglasses on, no shoes on, Those were the days.
Those were the days.
Weren't they?
I'll tell you a quick little story along those lines. I'm going to try and make it quick. I don't know if you knew, but I spent 2 years backpacking in the woods. And I was an incredibly sickly child. And I was also quite overweight. I recently found one of my pictures at 200 pounds. It's really shocking.
Oh, wow.
And anyhow, being out in the woods pretty much for 2 years, in and out just to get supplies every 3 months and back in again.
Shoot.
I was definitely, without realizing it, getting lots of sunlight, right? I was grounding. I was even sleeping on the earth. When it wasn't raining or we didn't have a gazillion mosquitoes to deal with, we were not even in a tent. We were just on the ground, And we were eating fresh fish from the creeks in Big Sur and in Northern California and Oregon and Washington. We spent 3 months in Hawaii. We were picking as many wild green things as we could. We took a deer every 6 months. And unbeknownst to me, without any consciousness, without trying to put myself, into more of a ketogenic diet and heal myself, because that's not what I was out there for. I was out there because I love this guy, and he wanted to play, warrior, and I played his squaw.
That's so funny.
I love that. Oh my gosh.
But I was the healthiest of my life, and I'll never forget coming back in from the woods, probably a year or so in, and going into a gas station bathroom that had a mirror. And I sat there and pointed at myself and just laughed and realized I'd been tying my pants on because they were falling off of me. I had lost so much weight.
Oh my gosh.
And I looked so healthy. And I realized I hadn't had any problems with my skin. I hadn't had any strep throats. I haven't had any of the health issues that I had. I had tons of energy. I felt great. And that was because we lived a lifestyle that was natural. I mean, we were really paleo.
Yeah,
in the true sense of the word, right?
We really did it. We lived off the land. We had a book that taught us how, what plants we could pick, what barks we could use, how to, we jerked 3/4 of the deer. So we carried, venison jerky with us. We'd stay and, eat some of the meat while we were jerking it in a location. And it was just a totally amazing thing to experience that. And on the other side of things, I just have to say that when I came in from the woods and I went to visit my family, I could not sleep in the house. Now, this was in the early 1970s. This is before cell phones. This is before Wi-Fi. We had those big giant televisions.
Wow.
But electricity in the walls was so intense that it jangled my nerves, and I had to sleep outside. I could not sleep in the house.
Wow. So what did you do? Sleep out in the backyard?
I did. And I realized that what was going on for me is that I had been numbing myself down, and I think we all have been numbing our sensitivities, our intelligence, our awareness down, living in an environment with so much unnatural frequency, so much unnatural light. Real light, native light is the key to our health. And even when we talk mitochondria, you two, mitochondria, all of its communication is through photons, through light. Microorganisms, all the communication that they do is through light, through photons. We are light beings. And we desperately need real light, native light, if we want to be as healthy as we can.
And there's the huge correlation from what I've looked into, and I'm sure you have too, that the electrification, if I can say that correctly, the electrification of modern living in the late 1800s, 1870, 1880, around there, when electricity started coming in, and then you start correlating that and mapping that to disease processes. I mean, it's almost like they just go hand in hand on the chart. It's crazy.
Oh, it's amazing. If you look at statisticians' work, basically before we had the incandescent light bulb, there was so little disease other than infectious disease. And as we added each thing from the electric light bulb on when we started electrifying our houses and we started using refrigerators and we started using stoves and we started using cars and we started using this, that, and the other, you can see as the percentage of people who had those things available to them grew, so did the different diseases.
Isn't that crazy?
And to me, one of the most shocking things is 100 years ago, if somebody had a heart attack, it was considered so rare that doctors would travel hundreds of miles to see it. And now it is common occurrence. What we're doing with diabetes is unbelievable. I mean, young children, babies with type 1 diabetes with no family history. You know, all these things that are going on, the learning disabilities and all of it. And there's correlations to a number of things, but definitely electricity and unnatural light is one of the biggest.
So let's talk a little bit about this, because we've had Dr. Cruz on the show a few times, and I've been getting into his work the last few years. Let's talk about, there's a couple sides to light, obviously. And so you want to block man-made artificial light, and then you want to get the full spectrum sun. And so there's two different, one you're getting photons, one you're getting biophotons. So in terms of, let's look at one side of the coin, like blocking the artificial light and why we should block it and how to block it. Let's talk a little bit about that to give people some good tips here.
Okay. I mean, I'll get into it a little bit with you, but there's probably people who are going to be much better for you to talk about what you actually do in your home. But I'll give you some real basic, easy things. And now Jack is really carrying things to another whole level because of this 5G thing.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
But, what I wanted to say is the easiest thing to do, and that we do, is we turn off the Wi-Fi. Mm-hmm. And every night when we go to bed, and we don't turn it on until we need the computers during the day. Okay, so that's number one. Much better than that is to get your Wi-Fi hardwired so you don't have Wi-Fi anymore and you have Ethernet cables wherever you're going to use your computer.
Okay.
And that way you're not going to be having Wi-Fi wherever you are all the time when it's on. Okay. So that's a really big one. And there's a lot of people that know how to do that. I don't, but I have one of my friends who's coming to do it for me soon with these little modular devices that you plug into your wall, and you can create Ethernets with that. And you have to know more about, how it's all, the electricity is all put together. So maybe you can have someone on who can talk to you much more specifically about that. But that's number one. Number two is, and this Jack is really questioning right now, but Dr. Klinghardt for years and years and years, I mean, we were talking about this stuff 25 years ago with the doctors from Europe called Bow Biology. And you'll find tons of research if you want to look that up on the internet, looking at not only unnatural, unhealthy light, but also geopathic stress from the earth, radon gas, all that sort of thing, ley lines that are unhealthy, that sort of thing that can make a big difference in the quality of someone's health. But anyway, he talks about getting this special fabric and making a sleep sanctuary. And for people that are in apartments or condos who don't have any control over all of their neighbors' Wi-Fis, and they're being exposed to it all the time, you can create these sanctuaries. It doesn't have to just be a sleep sanctuary. It can be a work sanctuary. And the fabric has silver threads in it. And typically what people do is they'll make this little tent where you have something that hangs from the ceiling, a hook, and then you have a circular ring, and then fabric that goes all around it with places that open. And the fabric goes all the way to the floor. And basically what you're doing by doing that is you're creating a Faraday cage around where you work.
I like that.
Or where you sleep.
Now, where would someone get some of this material, do you know?
Go online and see them. You know, they're not cheap. They're like $1,000 or a little more even sometimes.
Okay.
But they're being made all over the world now, and you can look into them, and that's a very cool thing. Right now I'm a little remiss because I was running a little late at grocery shopping before this. And so I'm dressed right now in my spaghetti strap dress, and I'm sitting in front of a computer. Now, I have my blue blockers on, and I highly recommend that everybody invest in an inexpensive pair of blue blockers. Jack talks about some that are really inexpensive. They're not very cute, but they do the job. And then there's beautiful ones that you can order. And Dave Asprey has some fancy, expensive ones that are both amber ones, kind of orangey ones, and red ones, which really will knock you out if you have sleep issues at night.
Totally.
And yeah, so what I'm doing is I'm protecting my eyes, but I should have a long sleeve, high neck shirt on right now because I'm sitting in front of the computer. And where's the computer aimed? Right at my thyroid.
Mm-hmm.
So, the other thing I've been wanting to do and have not followed through on yet is to buy a bunch of that fabric and to come up with pretty little ways to make kind of a bib, honestly, a big person bib, so that it'll cover my thyroid and my chest.
Yeah, yeah. Have you looked into where people can buy that, or yourself can buy that fabric? And it's probably really pricey, huh?
It's pricey, but go online and it is available.
Okay.
Yeah, if there's many, many sources. I mean, I've come up with more than I wanted to look at in a day.
I know you go down the rabbit trail. I'm sitting here with a cape over myself. It looks silly, but I don't care. It's like some apron that's covering my belly, just being in front of this stuff too, because I get, once you're aware, it's like you can't go back.
I know. My hands are tingling right now,
Right. I know.
And part of it, I typically will not keep my cell phone on in the car. Mm-hmm. But I had, there was somebody who was in crisis, so I left my phone on for them. And I talked with them in the car, which is the stupidest thing you can do. Yeah. And I'll tell you why that's the stupidest thing, even if it's hands-free. And that's because your cell phone is tracking where the towers are. So it's like every 15 seconds it's pinging. It's almost like being, right by a smart meter.
Right, right.
And it's the worst thing to do. If you're wearing a phone, you want it to be in airplane mode. And, train yourself every hour or something to turn it on and see if anybody called and call them back. But don't walk around with one of those on your body, for God's sakes.
And one of the things, too, inside of a car, you're basically inside of a
tin
little,
can.
Yeah, Faraday cage itself.
Right. Uh-huh. Yeah. So, shame on me. I did that today, but I don't do it very often, I'll tell you, because it's just disrespectful to this precious, amazing gift of, life and protoplasma and light and everything else that these bodies are that we get to inhabit. Mm-hmm. And to me, it is such a privilege to look at ways that I can help to support this thing to provide the highest quality of life, information, love, energy on the planet. I think that's what we're here for. And we've forgotten that. And we've turned so much into convenient and forgotten what, is natural and real. Uh-huh. So much of what we eat is not food. I've been calling it frankenfood forever, but it's just, can you imagine one of your ancestors from 300 or 400 years ago coming and going into, a typical person's house with all their cans and jars and Twinkies and white
Cheetos.
bread and stuff nobody would consider eating. It's just it's not food. And if we want to nurture these bodies, nurture the light, it needs something real.
That's so true. And so what other ways are you blocking blue light in the evening? Do you guys have lights on in the evening time, or do you wear full clothing inside, like full?
That's a good question.
Yeah, I'm just curious about
we do wear full clothing, and we wear our blue blockers at night, and we've been tending to go to bed a lot earlier than we have before. but we still really love to either watch something, a documentary or a movie at night. That's kind of one of our things. Uh-huh. We don't do it every night, but we do it often. We also, do some classes through CDs. Like right now, we're doing Alison Armstrong's amazing work on relationships. So we're listening to a CD course and working with all that stuff to see what we can do to really honor the uniqueness of the male energy, the hunter energy, and the gatherer energy, the female energy, and all of that. And
so you got to be up. You got to be up and awake for that. So.
Right.
Yeah, we really do, because there's a lot of. She's asking us to, work on some questions.
That's cool.
That's great.
Get in touch with stuff.
Did you know that conventional dog food contains antibiotics, herbicides, pesticides, ground up carcasses from roadkill subjected to high heat processing, artificial colors, chemical preservatives, way too many carbohydrates, genetically modified corn syrups, indigestible grains, and a lack of moisture content in the dry kibble? Obviously, this can lead to health conditions like diabetes, itchy skin, teeth and gum problems, liver damage, obesity, behavioral issues, pancreatic problems, and even cancer. That's why we recommend the Barf Diet, which is the biologically appropriate raw food diet from Barf World. Their unprocessed raw meats contain bone, organ meats, vitamins, and minerals that are loaded with enzymes. Barf World founder Robert Mueller explains more.
Sure, I don't have to convince you on the damage that's caused by high heat to food. So as a result, we see many skin disorders, a lot of arthritis, obesity, heart disease, cancers. I mean, it's just rampant. The pet clinics are just full of these conditions. And basically a large percentage of the commercial pet food that's made up of the human industry leftovers. And the pet food industry makes use of this waste product. And in addition to that, we are subjected to the products coming out of the rendering plants. Garbage in, garbage out. If you feed garbage to your dog, you're going to end up with garbage health. If you put the right gas in, your engine runs smoother and lasts longer. So if you put the right fuel in the tank, you're going to get the right output. Garbage in, garbage out.
We've seen an immense difference with our dog Maggie being on this diet. Give your dog the gift of health today by going to extremehealthradio.com/barf or go to our store. That's extremehealthradio.com/barf to learn even more.
Yeah, it's really weird because, I've been trying to go to bed earlier, and I wear the blue blocker glasses, and I have the glasses that go red, so I kind of, as the night progresses, I wear a darker and darker orange to red kind of a color to block out all the blue light, and it makes such a big difference.
We've changed out our light bulbs, and...
Yeah, we've changed out our light bulbs, and...
look... people came over. Sometimes I have to screw in the other light in the middle of the day just so people don't freak out.
People don't think we're crazy. But, yeah,
who cares?
It makes such a big difference, doesn't it, this whole light thing, especially indoors in the evening.
Oh, it's huge. And one of our friends has been with Jack since the beginning. He's a dentist, and Jack used to be a dentist. And, so we actually purchased some of the black lights, the ultraviolet lights. And we haven't quite figured out how and where to put them, but I have a couple of ideas where I spend the most time where I'll put them in. But and we haven't tried that yet. But so far, so many of my patients have said this has been the thing that's helped them the most, is to really get this light thing down, to turn off their Wi-Fis, to sleep in a room with no electricity. That's so huge, you guys.
Yeah.
And sleeping in a room with no extra light. I mean, blacking out the room when you sleep. It's just gigantic. There's studies that, I read years ago from T.S. Wiley. She wrote a book about light, 30 years ago or something. And she talked about a study that they did where they just took a pinpoint of light from a small flashlight and put it on someone's leg, and the rest of their body was black, and it completely changed their biorhythms and their production of different hormones and neurotransmitters.
Wow! So the amount of light that was put onto the skin was just a tiny
spot of light. Yeah, that's all.
Crazy.
It wasn't even the eyes. It was on the leg.
Wow, that is unreal. So what kinds of effects was it? Like, how much was it lowering hormones or whatever levels they were testing? How much was it lowering those things?
Yeah, the book is called Lights Out. It's still available probably for $1 at used bookstores. I recommend that you take a look at it. I don't know the numbers. That's one thing I'm not good at is remembering numbers for you. I could grab the book and go look for it and, let you know later on. But it was considerable, the difference. And especially when you have people with really serious sleep issues, which kind of gets me to another one of the areas that we're all dealing with right now. When we talk about environmental things, I'm sure you've had lots of people talking about glyphosates and that sort of thing. Mm-hmm. But I think all of us need to look at two other pieces that we don't typically think of when we look at what might be contributing to things like fatigue and tiredness and memory loss and what we call aging and exhaustion and, arthritic pains and all that kind of stuff. You guys are a little young for that, but still, I know you've had some issues with fibromyalgia and chronic fatigue. And I think there's so many things that we're unconsciously doing without any awareness that are contributing to that. And one of them is small head injuries. I mean, there's so much right now about even shaking babies, playing with them and shaking them and throwing them up in the air. It can cause the brain to slosh around and create a mini TBI, traumatic brain insult. And all these kids who are playing basketball, football, whatever, getting hit in the head. I mean, how many times have we been hit in the head? How many times have we fallen and gotten hit in the head? And nobody ever treated or looked at that stuff.
Wow, yeah, that's interesting.
So there's that. We have the unnatural light, which directly affects the brain. And then our environments. I mean, most of us have lived in a location where there's been water damage of some sort or another, even from a hot water heater overflowing or something where we have issues with molds, and then those molds, the spores creating mycotoxins. And so we're dealing with all of these different things all coming together. We don't have the right light. We're using, unnative light a lot. We're not grounding. We're not walking. We're not exercising. We're sitting in front of computers and Game Boys and cell phones all day long instead of relating and having human touch, which is so profoundly healing. Mm-hmm. So we want to start looking at how can we turn that around. I don't want to be a naysayer. I mean, how can we bring more touch into our life? How can we bring more fresh air into our lives? There's simple tests called the ERMI test where you just swipe, a piece of fabric across the top of a door jamb or a high sill somewhere. And oftentimes you would be surprised to find out there's mycotoxins from some mold insult that's happened in your home that you might not know about or you forgot about or whatever.
How do you spell that, ERMI?
I believe it's ERMI.
Okay.
Yeah.
Someone was just asking me about ways to test their house. I said, oh man, there's so many ways, but I haven't heard of that one before.
Yeah, ERMI, ERMI mold test.
Okay.
Look it up on, because you were just doing some research on that the other day, Kate, in carpeting, right?
Yeah, just all the stuff that lingers on carpet when people walk around with shoes in your house. It's disgusting.
Okay, so that's another big one. Get rid of your carpeting.
Right.
I mean, I tell everyone, just get rid of it. I mean, it's one thing if you've spent thousands and thousands of dollars on real wool carpeting without formaldehyde backings. Mm. But most people don't do that. I mean, that is for the wealthiest of the wealthy to do that sort of thing.
Right. Did you have to do that in your houses? Did you have carpet and removed it?
I have no carpeting in my house at all.
Did you have to remove it? Was it there when you bought it or got it?
Oh, yeah. It was here when I got it.
Oh,
we put tile floors downstairs, Italian tile downstairs, and upstairs we have bamboo.
That's nice.
Yeah, because then another issue, too, in terms of, you start getting into, green building and things, because another issue that people run across is these glues contain benzene, or the chemicals that are in the wood that people use to replace their carpet with. So it's like,
right.
It's it's another rabbit trail.
I know there's so much. I mean, really, the whole thing about good quality woods and even saunas and looking into all of that, because almost any wood that's imported into the country has to be fumigated, and that's nasty stuff they're using.
Yeah, so you went with the tile.
Tile, that's interesting.
So you went with the tile.
I did. We went with tile downstairs, and upstairs is bamboo.
Bamboo.
Interesting. Yeah. Okay.
Good
so
to know.
I bet tile is probably a lot less toxic. I would think, but gosh, I don't know.
I think it is. I mean, you have to still use some mastic to lay it down, and but then the mastic is completely covered by the tile and the grout. And the grout seems like it's a really inert, super simple sort of thing.
Wow.
So
that'd be cool to have some sort of tile or something to where you could be grounded in your home walking barefoot on the tile. Wouldn't that be cool?
Oh, that would be cool.
Yeah, it is really nice.
That would be really cool. Yeah, this whole thing of modern living, it's just incredible how little we really looked into it. We just sort of, as a culture, we just dive right into things. Like the whole cell phone thing, we just, it's a cell phone, it allows me to do X, Y, Z, so I will, just go whole hog with it and start using it 24/7. Or, these homes are built in the ways that they're built, and we don't consider the fact that they can be incredibly toxic until 70, 80 years later or 100 years later. And then we're trying to figure out why we're sick and why we have all these issues. And, most people are looking first at their diet and things like that. But, man, it could be some, toxic home or toxic mold or formaldehyde or benzene or EMF.
Or the clothes you're wearing and breathing, all the, chemicals you're washing your stuff in. I mean, you just have to pay attention to stuff.
That's crazy.
And even plastics. I mean, my God, people are drinking bottled water out of plastic and thinking that's okay.
Yeah.
And I mean, even the non-BPA stuff, they're showing some of it's more toxic than BPA. So
Great.
I've been doing a lot with a really interesting form of water. I recently did a couple-hour interview where I was interviewing him, Stephen Settlemeyer, this brilliant researcher, scientist, mathematician, physicist, and inventor, who developed something called Divinia water. And I really recommend you all take a look into it. Unfortunately, selling it on your site won't make you any money because there's just so little in it at this point. He's really looking for investors. But this water, when people drink it, it's so pure. It's actually, you may have studied a little bit of this work, but it's EZ water, fourth stage water. And he is friends with the doctor who did all the research on it. His name will come back to me in a second here, but he talks about fourth stage water, and this is actually EZ water. It's also what they call deuterium depleted water. Okay. So if you've been studying Jack's work, you've been hearing how he talks about deuterium as one of the biggest problems for all of humanity. Mm-hmm. And then it's 102% oxygenated water.
Shoot.
So people who have been on dialysis have been able to get off of dialysis when they drink just this water. And I'm seeing amazing things with cancers, and there's a special one that goes on the skin that melanomas have been going away. And it's not that the water's curing people, it's just that the water is not something that's adding more problems to us because this is pure water.
Now,
and there's no minerals in it, there's no nothing in it. It's just the water. Everything's been extracted.
What is the original source of that water?
It doesn't even matter, because when he gets done with the water that he's using, it's whatever he has in Idaho Falls. When he gets done, the filters are so toxic that he practically has to wear a hazmat suit. If a drop of the filtrant gets onto his skin, it'll blister him on contact.
Oh my goodness. Wow, I see some of his interviews here with Project Camelot.
Right,
some good work.
right.
Yeah, interesting.
Okay. One of those interviews that he did with Project Camelot is with a man who had been exposed to high levels of plutonium, an engineer, and he was dying of radiation poisoning. His liver and his kidney were failing. He had done bone marrow tests to look at the levels of toxins in his bone marrow. And after using the water, it's quite an interesting story, but after using the water for a while, he's totally normal, and his bone marrow is showing it as well, which is supposedly impossible. It's never been done in medical history before.
Nice.
Wow.
All they've done is the water, because they're getting out of the way and allowing the body to do what the body knows. Nature knows what she's doing. I mean, the other thing that I really have to add to this, because, you know, basically when Jack talks, he's really on his big, huge high horse, and I agree with him about light and, you know, getting the right light for wherever you live or for your body and moving to where you need to for healing. But he's always talking about things like stem cells work so much better when you're in a high light environment. So stem cell effects are like 20 to 40% better for people who are doing them in the sun in Mexico than, you know, in the cold up in northern Alaska or in Canada.
Interesting. Yeah, I know. I've heard him talk a lot about when they do blood samples, or they'll do different testing where they're extracting blood or stem cells, and they're doing it under a blue lit environment, and people don't understand, you know, what's going on. Like if someone gets a blood sample done and they ship it to, you know, a lab, you know, across the country, how is that EMF from the plane affecting the blood while it's in transport to the next lab? You know, and so it's a lot of the stuff that you're talking about, that he's talking about, that no one's really talking about.
Yeah, I mean, we're not realizing that everything affects everything. And, you know, that kind of brings me back to the piece with Allison. Our emotional state is everything. I mean, I just finished doing another couple of courses. One was looking at pulsing of different substances for people with serious brain injuries and dysfunction and all of that. And they're talking about peptides and stimulating the body through our peptides and some real exciting stuff. But they are also saying that 85% of the maladies and the challenges to healing have to do with stress.
Really?
Yes. And we don't make nearly enough of a deal about what does it take to have our heart in the right place? What does it take for us to feel happy? What does it take for us to feel loved and excited about the challenges of our life rather than overwhelmed by them? And when we're feeling overwhelmed, it creates cascades of all the sympathetic nervous system stuff, right? The fight or flight stuff, the things that have nothing to do with healing and curing, the parasympathetic stuff. The parasympathetic is all about our relaxing and our building and our healing and all that good stuff. And when we're stressed out, we're in sympathetic mode, just using up all of our resources, tightening, contracting, and making everything that much harder. So, you know, when it comes to it, not only are we talking about the light of the sun, we're talking about lightheartedness and the light between each other, the light that happens when we hold hands, when we look into each other's eyes with tenderness and care and compassion. You know, when we're looking for the best in people and ourselves rather than the worst. You know, walking out into the world expecting everything's going to be terrible is definitely not a very healing thing to do. And if we looked at people's tests, feeling really loved and supported and feeling really put upon and challenged and I don't know, hated, I think you're going to see totally different results.
So when we're looking at someone else in the eyes, or we're hugging them or kissing them or holding their hands or touching them in some way, we are exchanging light and photons, from my understanding, right? And Dr. Cruz doesn't really talk about that, I don't think. But
no, he doesn't.
Yeah. It is important.
But there are studies that show it.
Yeah.
I mean, and you can look at Krylene photography and put two people close together who are in love with each other and see what kind of energy moves between the two of them, and when they're mad at each other and see what kind of energy flows between them.
So really, like, being exposed to light, bad light, blue light, too much blue light in the wrong spectrum and the wrong frequency and all of that, really that's just an indication of stress, because what it's doing is it's stressing the body in the same way that you would get stressed, trying to go to a store and you're rushed and trying to be on time and all that kind of stuff. So really it's the stress that these things are having on our bodies, right?
Absolutely. I mean, don't get me wrong. I am so into doing deep cellular detox work with people and, taking people through these processes that help make it easier nutritionally and biochemically to release toxins with herbs and nutrients and lifestyle and dietary changes and, doing something for ourselves in a loving way. But honestly, when it gets right down to it, Rich and I are questioning if we couldn't actually do even more by being in a compassionate, loving space with ourselves and the people in our lives than doing all of the good stuff for ourselves.
So expand on that, because I know that you and Rich are always learning new things, and this is pretty fascinating. And Dr. Cruz talks a lot about he kind of goes where I think a little too far in the other direction. I love him and his work, and I follow him and I watch his stuff, but he goes so far as to say, you should eat seafood and DHA, and I don't really care what else you do in terms of diet. And I don't think that I think diet plays a big role, because we're essentially, consuming light when we consume food. But I'm curious about all of this, because this is a piece that he's not getting either.
Yeah. So this is actually why Rich won't listen to Jack.
Oh, really?
Oh, how funny.
Oh, funny.
If I have Jack on, he'll just get a scowl on his face and walk out of the room.
How funny.
That's interesting.
Yeah, and it's not because his science isn't important, and Jack, has influenced a lot of what Rich does, because he's out in the sun more than I am every day, and he's really on top of his blue blockers. Uh-huh. And he's doing all of these things, but he really dislikes the presentation and emotional state and the way that he speaks about it. Mm-hmm. And honestly, Jack has some students of his that have websites now that I enjoy listening to a lot more, although I'm still a member of Jack's site, because they speak with so much more compassion and tenderness when they're going through this information, and there's a kind-heartedness, and there's not an I know it all. And anybody who doesn't agree with me is an idiot kind of energy.
Right.
No, totally.
So it's another piece. But what I'm really trying to get at here is we see magic happen with recall healing. We see people when they get in touch with their issues and realize that what we're calling cancer and different diseases, these are not there to harm us. These are our body's response trying to heal us. And if we can not come at these things with insane amounts of fear, and believe me, I'm not saying it's easy in this day and age, but we work very hard to create a paradigm of healing around this, of communication, that the body is communicating, that the photons are communicating. And that shifts with a different state of mind, with bringing information of our ancestors to the forefront, with recognizing that what we're doing is actually something that is about honoring our ancestors and taking care of issues that they did not complete, so that our children and our grandchildren and our great-grandchildren won't have to carry that in the future. And we all, by being human in the families that we're in, have a piece of work that we're here to do for the future of humanity by healing these chunks.
Yeah.
And it can be done with compassion, with tenderness, and a sense of awe and exploration. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you.
No, I just think I think that, Dr. Cruz talks a lot about the physics of everything, and the photons and the electrons, and how really all of health, gets down to the physics of it and the spin of the electrons and all that stuff. And that's That's, I mean, the physics in my mind is like right on the gate, the balancing between the physical and the spiritual. It's kind of like right on that edge, blending both worlds together. But I think the work that you guys do is a level above that. And I think that the spiritual, emotional, and then you get to the physics side that he talks about, light, water, and magnetism. And then you get down another level to the actual biophysics, which is the nutrition and that kind of stuff. And I just think that stuff that you're doing, the recall healing, the Gestalt therapy, all of the emotional, spiritual work you do, it seems to me that that's the deepest core of what's really going on.
To me, one of the pieces we're really missing out on too, is homeopathy. I mean, honestly, homeopathy is basically communication through light to our autonomic nervous system, which is doing all of the work for us. And it's inviting our autonomic nervous system to take some of its precious energy that it's using, trillions of functions every moment, to keep us alive, and asking it to put its attention on the thing that we're giving it.
It seems like homeopathy, too, is right in that balance, kind of like the light frequency and the energetics, like right in that physics kind of area where Dr. Cruz is, it seems like.
But it's totally frequency. Yeah. It's frequency medicine. And, it's just so amazing when you have an acute issue, you can see how profoundly quickly it works, because acute happened quick, so it can go away quick. Yeah, right. So you have a burn, for instance, and depending upon the type of burn, some people use cantharis. I actually use a homeopathic of stinging nettle. But there's different remedies that a person can use, and within 5 to 10 minutes, the burn is completely gone, even if it blistered on contact. Wow. And there's no scarring that happens afterwards. And why? Because we gave it the energy of the thing that causes that problem. Like stinging nettle causes a burning, stinging sensation and redness and blisters. So when you take that, you're telling your autonomic nervous system to dilute, because what is a homeopathic remedy but a diluted substance to the point that there's nothing physical left of it, it's just frequency, of that which causes burning, stinging, red, itching, blisters. And there it goes.
Well, it makes sense. I mean,
it makes complete sense, yeah.
More than a lot of other things people try, to, I don't know.
Yeah.
Heal from things. People seem to be so intense with how they, quote, heal. It's, the typical burn, starve off, or, cut out, or it's like, golly, people like homeopathy. How long has homeopathy been around, Meridian? Do you know?
250 years.
Jeez.
And I mean, it's just so amazing because, almost all the medicine that we do now and that we say is, real medicine. Yeah. It's basically lab studies and petri dish studies and animal studies. But for a homeopathic remedy to get into the materia medica, there had to be 1,000 human beings who took it and reported on all the changes that happened in their body from taking the remedy. And not only their body, but their emotional states, inner and outer changes, their digestion, their head, their eyesight, their mental state. I mean, everything.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it's just amazing that which medical doctors did, and almost all our hospitals in the United States were homeopathic hospitals in the beginning. I'm working right now with these amazing doctors in India, the Banerjees. And they see 1,000 people a day for 3 generations. They're all medical doctors and homeopaths. They see 125 people a day that have cancer. They have literally gone to places like MD Anderson and major NIH and major hospitals, teaching hospitals and research hospitals, showing them how their homeopathic remedies have been able to clear 4th stage cancers for people that they had given up on in those clinics. And do you think that's in the newspapers? Do you think it's even available to the doctors at the hospitals? It's just research that's hidden in the books.
Wow.
So I actually have this lovely relationship with them where I have their books, and if I don't find what I'm looking for in the books, I can email them, give them the diagnosis of the person, and they send me a protocol that they've used thousands of times for something similar. And then they ask me to write back to them in a month and tell them how my patient's doing. I have 3 people I'm working with cancer right now, and their numbers are going down, down, down. And one of them has pancreatic cancer. They told him he'd be dead by now. His tumor's 20% smaller.
Oh my goodness! And pancreatic cancer, that's a big one.
Well, I've done pancreatic cancer work for years because of my personal experience with colon cancer and using Dr. Kelly's work, and he's known for pancreatic cancer. So at the same time, Dr. Gonzalez was studying with Dr. Kelly that I was. So most people know of Dr. Gonzalez from that work. So, I mean, I combine the two. I'm doing Gonzalez's or Dr. Kelly's work with the homeopathy and the lifestyle, and I'm putting in the ketogenic diet because of the amazing work of Dr. Warburg. And I'm teaching people how to breathe, which is another piece, y'all. It's so, so, so important. Dr. Warburg pointed out that a cancer cell cannot grow in an oxygen-rich environment. They can only grow in an anaerobic state, which causes what we call fermentation. So the sugars get broken into ferments instead of ketones, which is what is amazing for us. I mean, it's really, really amazing. Right. So what we can do is we can do Buteyko breathing. So if y'all haven't talked to a Buteyko breathing instructor, I highly recommend it. These guys are from Russia. They started out working with people who had asthma, and the idea is to increase the CO2 forcing the oxygen into our organs. So we only breathe in Buteyko breathing through the nose, not through the mouth. I tape my mouth every night when I go to sleep, so I'm not breathing through my mouth. You breathe in through your nose and out through your nose. And then you hold it for as long as you can. And they've discovered that when people hold the breath and are able to hold their breath, and they have cancer for more than typically, I think it's 60 seconds, the cancer cells can't grow, and at 90 seconds for sure, those cancer cells are dying.
So what are they doing? They're breathing through their nose and then holding it for 60 seconds?
They breathe in through the nose, out through the nose gently, and then they just hold their nose and see how long they can hold it for. And then they do all these exercises to expand that amount of time. So after you've been just doing that, doing nothing, then you walk around the room, then you can start doing different exercises, and major athletes are training doing this, where like they might be doing a sprint, breathing only through their nose, and at a certain point, the coach will put up a sign, and everybody has to hold their breath for the last part of their sprint. And that builds their stamina, their strength, their oxygenation of their muscles and of their tissues to an incredible level. So, obviously somebody who's not an athlete couldn't do that right away, but little by little, you build up the length of time that you can comfortably hold your breath and not breathing through the mouth.
Yeah, it's fascinating. We did a show for those that are listening and are interested in with I think his name was Dr. Arthur Ramakov or something like that, episode 362. So I'll put a link in the show notes for that particular show. But yeah, you're right. I mean, there's so many different layers and aspects to all of this healing and breathing. Yeah, it's just fascinating.
I know. So, I mean, I have to admit, there's a part of me that is just not thrilled with the idea that it seems like only the wealthy can really enjoy alternative health.
Yeah.
But if we look at it, if we're willing to do the work, if we're willing to work with our breathing, if we're willing to deal with our sunlight, if we're willing to stop using, EMF-ridden stuff all the time, if we're willing to only eat foods that nature provides when she provides them, which is, another big piece, and Jack has really gotten into that, and you'll see Mercola has really gotten into variation, and Dan Pompa talks a lot about for people that just can't seem to lose weight or balance their blood sugar or whatever, how you can start working with different variabilities, like 5 days of ketogenic diet with only 20 carbs, and then 1 day of fasting and 1 day of eating all the carbs you want, but healthy carbs. And honestly, Jack may say that all he cares about is getting the DHA in, but that man eats totally clean, amazing food. He's not saying to go out and eat Twinkies and, boxed potato chips and garbage.
Right.
And he's definitely not saying to do that and eat sardines and oysters. He's not saying that's what you do. But he is far more open to people honoring the circadian rhythms of life, and that in the springtime, a lot of people fast because there's not much food available yet.
Yeah.
As we move more into spring and the beginning of summer, then we have an abundance of food, and towards fall, that's when there's more carbs than any other time, and then we move into a time where we're living off of, fish, meat, and fat. So, we watch the cycles, the rhythms, and most of us are Northern Europeans, so we're taking into consideration our environment where we live, and we're also taking into consideration the environment that our ancestors grew up in, and how did they eat?
Yeah. It all plays. Everything, every thought we think, every environmental toxin we're exposed to, all the foods we eat, all the light we're exposed to and not exposed to. I mean, all of this makes up health. And I see so many people out there that are just focusing on one thing. Like a lot of people these days are following Dr. Cruz's work and they're only focusing on the light. Or a lot of people are out there are focusing only on nutrition. And there's so many layers to all of this stuff that in order to overcome like a debilitating chronic degenerative disease, we have to look at all the layers. But then also, if we're healthy, I think it's so important to bring all of these practices into our life so that we can not just not get disease, but we could see how long we could live and how much energy we can have and, what kind of life we can live. And,
like you always say, it's like how optimal, not what can we get away with.
Yeah, exactly.
How can we optimally live?
I know a lot of people will say, well, it's no big deal to go have a piece of birthday cake every now and again. And, who am I to say what people should do and what they shouldn't do? But honestly, for myself, what I would have to pay in the form of discomfort in my body for eating a white sugar, white flour birthday cake is not worth it. And on top of that, I don't even like the way they taste.
I know, right?
So true.
It's so true. It's so true, but so challenging. But I think if you're doing a lot of things correctly, you can make little mistakes here and there, and you can kind of get away with a little bit more if you want to do that kind of thing, But
yeah, and there's ways like I happen to have a background as a gourmet pastry chef,
Wow.
as part of my areas of interest when I was younger, and I did a lot of homemade breads and ground my grain and did the whole 9 yards. But at this point, I always realized that what I loved the most was the things like the custards and things I put into them. I can make a delicious custard now if I want it, and sweeten it with stevia, green leaf stevia, the real thing, the plant that actually has medicinal qualities. If I want ice cream, I can get raw A2 cream here in Austin and make myself some ice cream if I really want it. And the crazy part is I haven't done it in 2 years. So, if I really want crackers, I can take some zucchini and I can take some onions and garlic and herbs and some flax seeds and mush it all together and put it in the dehydrator and make myself some crackers.
Yeah.
There's just, and I don't even have any interest in the keto breads anymore. We used to do all that in the beginning. I used to make cakes, and for Rich's last birthday, I made him a coconut pound cake, but out of coconut flour. But, we didn't even enjoy it that much.
Wow.
Yeah, everything changes and shifts, I think,
Yeah,
when you
change over time, don't you?
I think so.
Yeah,
Yeah, I mean, we would rather eat some berries with raw cream, or raw sour cream, instead of eat that.
Yeah.
Instead of eat a coconut pound cake. And pound cake was Richard's favorite food. Not coconut when he was a kid, but, pound cake.
Yeah.
So anyway, we do shift. And as our taste buds shift, and, there's not that many of us who actually were raised in an environment that was really a clean environment as far as what we ate, what our parents were eating, and that sort of thing. But there are some rare people now, like you two are going to be having a child who's going to be coming into that. You've gotten your teeth taken care of. I'm so proud of you. My God, Kate, that's so, so, so important.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you.
One of my favorite things is to help people who want to have a baby prepare for a year or two to clean themselves up so their babies don't have to deal with all the stuff that happened to them before.
It's definitely a lot of work, but well worth it.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, God. Are you kidding? To have healthy children?
Yeah.
Free of ADD, ADHD, and autism, and all of the different diseases, the diabetes, the early deaths that we're expecting from our children.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah, I know.
The prep work isn't easy, but it is worth it.
It is definitely worth it. That's for sure. You've been doing a lot, Kate, and so.
Well, thank you. It hasn't been easy, but
it hasn't been easy, but it's been well worth it.
Mm.
Yeah.
But the weird part is, it gets to be a real joy after a while. It does not. I know making a change for most of us is not fun, but it can, if you put your head in the right place, which is what we're talking about, is being the huge difference in healing here. Getting your head in the right place. It can be an exciting journey. And that's what I'm talking about. Making it interesting. There are the most delicious gourmet foods that you can make that are keto. My God. And, working with wonderful, real, fresh vegetables from the farmer's market, or having a family project of building a garden. I mean, how wonderful is that? For your children and your grandchildren to enjoy. I mean, there's wonderful natural things that we can do that totally honor the precious gift of life that we have, instead of just thinking that it's more important to get to a meeting on time or something. Yeah. Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
and just having something from a convenience store.
We're so lucky to live like in Orange County here in California. There's not a lot of, space, but right around the corner, man, there's the most awesome organic farm. And I've been going there to get their fresh strawberries this season. And it's so cute. You see this change of these little kids, and they have like you pick strawberry, days, and they're running around with their little baskets, not even plastic bags, but baskets, like woven baskets, running out into the fields, getting messy with the strawberries. And it's like, that's the stuff life's made of. And they're yelling to each other like, look at this berry. It's like they're actually experiencing a world that was meant to be and existed all these years before it got taken away from them. But it's just, I'm encouraged by the little people when you watch them in that environment to see how exciting something like that can be.
That's really cool.
And then they're looking at the worms and they're touching the dirt, and it's just, I don't know, that kind of stuff just really, really encourages me to see people, taking their little people at a younger age to places like that to experience what life really is about, and to taste that berry ripened in the sun is just,
amazing, right?
Priceless. I love it. I love it. I love it.
It's what we all need to be doing, is reconnecting with nature on every level possible.
Well, then we're connecting. Yeah, we're creating, we're changing this, not the sins, but maybe the sins, but of the generations, prior. We're stopping cycles, and we're creating a better world. I think it's beautiful. I'm always hopeful for that.
Rudolf Steiner said that one of the best things we can do for our children, and what the job is of the parents during the first 7 years, is to create an environment of safety and show them all the things that the earth gives to them.
I love it.
To take our children to a ranch and see the sheep that you make the wool out of, that makes their clothing, or the cotton. To take them, like you're saying, into the gardens. My son was 2 years old, and I had this huge garden in Oregon, and he used to crawl down the aisles. And Heaven only knows how he knew at this early age, but he only picked the red strawberries and he left the green ones there.
Oh, my gosh,
he just knew it was innate.
yeah.
Yeah, and we had a wonderful hammock, and we used to sit on the hammock, and we'd picked a bunch of green peas, and we'd shuck the peas, and those all went underneath the hammock, and he would sit there and chew on the little green peas. I mean, that was the kind of stuff that Steiner really recommended. If you want a child to have strength and capacity to make a difference in the world, he has to feel safe in his world. So show him where things come from. Milk doesn't come out of cartons. Food doesn't come out of plastic bags.
Right.
I mean, where does all this happen? Go and visit the cows. See where these things, and the pigs, and I mean, all of them, the chickens, feed the chickens, I mean, let the children see where it all comes from. The gardens, plant a garden. And you'll have children that belong to their earth. We've taken that away. We've given them television sets and Game Boys and things like that instead.
It was refreshing last night. We were watching, something someone posted on Facebook, but there's this little girl. How old do you think she was? Maybe like 3 or 4 at the most.
Oh, the little indigo kid.
She had to be a little indigo kid. Her mom is filming her, and she's talking about how, we all have these hearts, and our hearts are all something. And if my heart can connect to your heart, and we're all smiling and we're happy, that's what life is about. And it's not about being at different levels. It's all about reaching out to someone on she goes off for like 2 minutes, and you're like, this kid is not from this world. And it's.
She was 2?
No, she had to be like closer to 4.
Okay.
But it's stuff that she didn't get that from anywhere but inside her heart. You could tell it was just this, she was on this soapbox of like talking to adults about how we need to get along and how there's this beauty in the world and how our hearts are supposed to be connected. And I've never seen anything. It had 18 million views or something.
Amazing, yeah.
Because this little kid, I was so encouraged. I went to bed all happy thinking she's talking about how important it is to smile and hold hands and connect to each other. And she really was serious about this, it was the cutest thing I've ever seen, but it was serious. And I thought there is a shift, and it's really cool to be a part of, and also, obviously for you and I, Jay, to be able to be given the gift of having little people at this time for this reason, where there's a big wake-up call.
It kind of reminds me a little bit of that book series, Meridian. I'm sure you're familiar with it, the Anastasia series by Vladimir Megre. Just like what you were saying, reconnecting with nature and all of that. That's what that whole entire book series is about.
Right. So instead of thinking about taking our kids to noisy arcades, let's take them to the ocean. Let's take them to the desert. Let's take them to the farms. Let's take them, to the forests and let them feel the incredible mystery of the earth and our lives and healing, and that our bodies are constantly healing every second. When we look at a drop of blood, on a dark field microscope or a dry blood drop, we watch that blood healing. It's not falling apart. It's healing.
Yeah.
When you get a cut, your body goes to work healing us. That's its directive.
Yeah.
We have to get rid of the old, these fancy terms. There's apoptosis and autophagy or autophagy, where the old useless mitochondria are being released, and then we do this mTOR process, a protein process of building up more new healthy tissue. And Jack would talk about that from the A, D, and K point of view.
Right.
So, we have this balance constantly going on of releasing the old and bringing in the new, and, releasing the suffering of our ancestors and of the previous wars and things like that we may be carrying in our body, and taking in the new thoughts and the love and the hope for the future and our beautiful children. And, and taking some responsibility for creating something real and standing up when people are insisting that we do horrible things to our children and ourselves. And, you know, for me, that's vaccinations. I just can cry my eyes out when I think about what's going on with the whole vaccination scene.
Yeah, it's a definitely something that everyone has to look at. You know, it's
people are waking up now.
Oh, it's rough.
So the moral of the story is cancel our first field trip to the Cheez-It factory and go out to the farm.
There you go. That's the moral of the story.
That's the moral of this whole. That's the whole summation of this this awesome interview.
So
totally kidding.
Well, healing.
Well, Meridian, thank you so much for taking some time and sharing what you've been into lately. If people want to work on all of these different levels with you, they can do that by contacting you. Is that correct? Do you still work with people?
Yes, I still work with people, and I want people to know that, I mean, this is new for me, and I know there's all kinds of fancy ways to do it, but I'm just really starting to build up YouTubes and possibly even some webinar type of arrangements. I have a friend who's been helping a little bit. We're starting to get together some decent equipment. So if you want to support any of that, just go to our website, awakeninghealth.com, and I don't even know what you're supposed to do. I mean, I think people talk about liking us. I don't even know about Facebook. But whatever, you know, to share it with your friends, tell your friends that we exist and that we're doing our best to share our hearts and souls and lives of research with you. And we're fascinated to hear about what's working for you. So
yeah, that's good stuff. So awakeninghealth.com is the main website.
Yes, that's our website.
Awesome. And are you still allowing people to come to your location and physically
Absolutely.
Be with you?
Yeah, we still have people come and spend, you know, a weekend or a day or 2 days, whatever they need. You know, it seems that particularly when people have gotten diagnoses that scare them, they want to do that.
Right.
And we have all the amazing equipment that you would find actually at a cancer clinic or autoimmune clinic in Europe here at our home. And it's a sweet environment.
Yeah, I've been there. And people, if you guys are interested in doing that, I would highly recommend checking them out because there's not a lot of people that understand, you know, the deeper, more spiritual aspects of health and all of the stuff that Dr. Cruz talks about and homeopathy. I mean, combined when you work with Rich, I mean, it's pretty deep and high level stuff. So, I mean, I can't say enough about Rich. He is probably one of the most brilliant medical doctors I have ever met in my life. And I have worked with so many. Mm-hmm. And he's sensitive and he's deep and he's aware. And he'll support your soul in healing, not just your head. Mm-hmm. And I think that's where the magic happens. Yeah. So when we work together, you know, I teach you all the lifestyle stuff. And, you know, I'm part of the cheerleading team. But Rich really understands the medicine and can help you to understand it in a non-scary way. Mm. So we recontextualize what the medical allopathic world wants to frighten you with. Mm-hmm. Wow. Well, thank you, Meridian. You rock, and we will send you a link to this as soon as it becomes available. We're way behind, so as soon as it does become available, we will send you the link. Thank you so much. Awesome. So appreciated. Okay. Yeah. All right. Blessings to both of you and the little ones. Oh, thank you so much. We really appreciate it. Hang on the line there, everybody. We are just going to close out the live show, and we'll be back for a wrap-up at the end, Kate and myself, and thank you guys for listening. Thank you for participating. Thank you for all the good that you're doing in the world. If you like this show and you think that it might help some of your friends and family, feel free to share it on Facebook or share it in email, however you want to share it with your friends. That would be greatly appreciated by all, and it would help a great number of people. So we would appreciate that too. So we love you guys. Thank you so much, and we'll catch you guys on the next episode. Bye-bye. The history of heat therapy dates back over 2,400 years, and it was Hippocrates who said, "Give me the power to produce fever, and I will cure all disease." This FDA-approved medical device called the Biomat is a mat that you can lay on, read on, sleep on, do yoga on, sit on, and it can be used on office chairs, massage tables, and the like to help the body heal itself. It's inlaid with 30 pounds of healing crystals using amethyst and a rare black tourmaline, producing negative ions in a healing electrical field. These healing crystals help to restore cellular health by replacing electrons to the atoms, as well as penetrating deep into the body by 4 to 6 inches. What can the biomat do for you? It'll improve your skin, burns as many calories as if you went jogging for 30 minutes. It improves the immune system by up to 40% or more, reduces stress and fatigue, removes toxins, lowers cholesterol, relieves pain, revitalizes cellular metabolism. It improves cell channels to deliver nutrients and oxygen to every one of your cells. It activates over 3,000 enzymes. And even a Harvard medical study showed cancer cells die at over 42 degrees Celsius. It reduces stress hormones by up to 78%. It allows your body to produce heat shock proteins, which increases endorphins, NK cells, T cells, and lymphocytes. It's very, very low EMF, and it's got a 17-layer technology. Dr. Mark Serkis is the director of the International Medical Veritas Association. Explain to us more about these biomats.
These biomats are these far infrared mattresses. You lay on them, or you sleep on them, or both. You do very heavy treatments during the day, and at night you sleep at just a nice comfortable temperature. These biomats are like these love machines, comfort machines, and healing machines, because what they do is they just radiate out light, far infrared light, and you can radiate yourself all night long while you're sleeping when you're not doing anything else. And what happens is this light penetrates the body and turns to heat. And the first thing that happens when you bring your core body temperature up 1 degree is your immune system strength increases by 40-50%. They feel when you lay down on them, you guys know, you have one. So it's like the feeling is so good. It's like being in the cuddling with a lover, your wife or husband. It's just warmth and comfort.
How are you using biomats for patients in your clinics?
The cancer treatment using heat is very aggressive, meaning during the day, you sandwich yourself in between 2 of them, turn it on to high heat, and bake the cancer. The cancer will die before you will. No, this is, you can awesome. Go to England and spend $20,000 and use microwave a cancer out of existence. These biomats basically do the same thing. Radiation therapy for cancer is really a solid idea. Unfortunately, oncologists use the wrong radiation. They use radiation that kills you. This biomat uses radiation that can save your life and make your life more comfortable, keep you warm in the cold, and help take care of your kids and all. The list doesn't end.
Yeah, because isn't there some sort of temperature at which cancer cells will start dying?
Right, and it's below the temperature that human cells will die.
So you really like this biomat far infrared technology, don't you?
But it's strengthened me. Well, now the kids are addicted to it. They fight on who's going to sleep on it at night. And it not only changed my life, but it changed my medical practice and my books. This is a great machine for anybody who lives in the cold during the winter. Instead of heating a big house, you just heat yourself. Bottom line, it brings good feelings. Just lay on this biomat, and it gives the strength back.
I can attest to that indeed. Kate and I love ours, and we think you will too. Learn more about these amazing biomats at extremehealthradio.com/biomat. Or you could check them out in our store as well. Again, that's extremehealthradio.com/biomat. All right. Meridian Grace. That was a fun show.
I really liked that, huh?
Guest on our show a few times.
I think she's really good about giving just practical things, Because we have people that, I agree, Jack Cruz might be over a lot of people's heads, or
right.
There's a lot of people that just don't learn a lot from scientific stuff, and there's people who totally nerd out on that stuff. But I love that she's just such an in-between. She's a researcher, but she says, she may not have all the numbers on her, but she can tell you things that are going to help get results if you do simple things,
Right.
Yeah, after I talked to her, I just feel so peaceful.
I know, right?
Makes you want to go jump in their creek behind their house. That was so cool to hang out with them that one day.
I know. Wasn't that cool? Mm-hmm. Yeah, we were on our way. We were seeing Dr. Stuart Nunley. This was probably, what year was this?
2000. Yeah, probably.
2015?
14, yeah.
And Dr. Nunley is the primo medical, I would say, biological dentist.
Yeah.
If you guys are ever looking for anyone, I mean, we took a flight out there to Texas. We live in California. It's so worth it. It's so worth it. He was incredible, and so we went out to see him, but then we hung out with them as well, so that was cool.
Yeah, we slept in an Airstream trailer. Remember that on a farm?
That was cool. That was
Someone's
cool.
farm.
And someone, remember that lady who ran that place?
Yeah, it was an Airbnb. She and her husband had all her mouth done with Dr. Nunley.
That's right.
Yeah, and she goes, "Oh, we love Dr. Nunley." Like, I had it. It was so weird because it was like a 40-minute drive.
We're out in the middle of nowhere.
Yeah, and she goes, "What do y'all, come to Austin for?" And she said the South by Southwest Festival. We said, "No, we're actually coming to get our teeth, our root canals taken out."
Like, what are you coming all the way from California to see, a dentist for? We said, we got this guy, Dr. Stuart Nunley.
And her eyes lit up.
And she told us that he had done. And this, I mean, how far away is she from him?
It was like an hour, 45 minutes or an hour.
Yeah, that was
such a cool connection. And she said, "Oh gosh, he's just the best, and he takes good care of you." That was a cool trip. And then it was such a bonus to be able to spend time with Dr. Massey and Meridian. And Dr. Massey took us out to their backyard where they have the creek, and I could just see it with those wild berries growing, like she said. And
did we meet up with Ty that trip, or
we did not?
Ty Bollinger? No.
We tried. We've met up with him when he's been out in our area.
That's right. He couldn't make it. Remember, we were trying to or meet up at Whole Foods or something.
It was a bummer because there were so many people on that trip that we wanted to hook up with, but
that was cool. It was cool to meet them in person, Dr. Massey and Meridian. They're really great people.
It was neat because Dr. Massey did the live blood cell analysis on me, and then spent another 2 hours doing some even then it was family constellation therapy. I love how both of them just put together the whole pie. Like you say, there's not a lot of people who deal with the emotional and the physical.
Yeah, I mean,
and they get it.
It's funny because a lot of people, like I said on the show, a lot of people focus on just one area, and it's so multi-layered. And like we were talking before a couple days ago, Dr. Cruz doesn't understand any of this stuff or the importance of it if he does understand.
Right.
And so I think it's really important. It's funny that Rich won't listen to any of Dr. Cruz.
That is funny.
I mean, Dr. Cruz is a very, he's been on the show, and his work has transformed and changed my life. But he is very, he definitely has an energy about him. And you kind of have to be when you're a neurosurgeon.
Sure,
dealing with people who, have, traumatic injuries, and you're in emergency brain surgery at 3 a.m. It's
right.
You got to be someone. It takes a certain personality type.
Well, sure. And I love that. There's different personality types for different people to listen to. And that's why I think the beauty of podcasting is just so cool, because we used to have 12 channels. Growing up that you could watch of TV or, 15 radio stations. But now you can search around and find anything that you connect with. And that's what I love about our options these days, But, yeah, I love the work of Jack Cruz, too. But I also, I totally got a kick out of hanging out with Dr. Massey on a show we did the other day with him. It was this is life. He's so kind and gentle, and he's just a different person. And when you're talking to a high-grade medical doc, an anesthesiologist, and it's it's just so cool that there's just different personalities and different people doing different work.
It's cool.
I love it. I love it. I love it.
It's cool, huh?
Yeah. What would be your biggest takeaway from that conversation?
With Meridian right now? Well, just how important it is. It's like a reoccurring theme, I think. Just how important it is to reconnect with nature, and it's so crazy. It's so nuts that we veer so far away from nature and then wonder why we all get sick.
Right,
but it's the simplest stuff. It's spending more time outside. I mean, how hard is that? I know when I'm working and I'm doing stuff, if you're gone or something, I have to actually put an egg timer on the computer to remind myself to get up. If I'm sitting, I'll get up and go outside for 5 minutes, and I'll do that every 30 minutes.
That's great.
But, I mean, it's so crazy how complicated we make it. But it's just really getting outside more, and I mean, how easy is that?
I know. It feels so good, doesn't it?
Yeah, and knowing how to do it, in the beginning of the day, because that's when you create all your hormones for the day, and your circadian rhythm, hormones, your
Right.
all of that stuff. And so it's knowing when to do it and how to do it. But I mean, it's just like
anytime you can get outside and get your feet on the ground or your hands on the ground, it's awesome. It makes you feel. I mean, you really do feel different.
totally.
Yeah.
How about you? What is your takeaway? Do you think? Sometimes it's just energy and how someone is. Like she and Dr. Massey, their spirit is so.
Oh, it's the best.
Kind and
yeah,
hopeful.
I think that's what I always walk away from both of them talking about. I just feel hopeful. I feel like it's not doomsday. I feel like there's always more options for people to heal.
How about that bit that she was talking about with the cancers going away with homeopathy?
Oh, I know.
That's
something people wouldn't think. I mean, I wouldn't think about that. I wouldn't draw that conclusion. Yeah, homeopathy is really interesting to me.
Are you going to try those things that you mentioned before the show? Was that recorded, or I don't know?
I don't know if we're starting the show then, or I mean, who knows? But I have it written down here, and I'm going to be starting it to try to help with the contractions and the discomfort of those pregnancies. So that'll be good. We're going to go tonight to our local health food store and get that. So, yeah, homeopathy seems like it could help me a lot at this point and help a lot of people. But I was laughing. I'm like, move over, Cheryl Strayed from Wild. It's like she's been 3 years.
Who, Meridian?
Meridian? Did she say 3 years?
I think it was 2,
camping.
But it doesn't matter.
Just cruise it. It sounds like they just like. I mean, she's like the original Wild.
Were they nomadic? Were they wandering around, or did they stay in a spot? I wonder.
It sounds like that. I don't know, but when she talked about going from Oregon to Washington to, I mean, they sound like they made some. Made some tracks and then probably got on a plane and flew to Hawaii and like.
How long was Cheryl Strayed out there?
Oh, a summer.
Oh, just a summer.
Which is still cool, but
I know, but it's so crazy. It's
Meridian's
like
with
summer out there.
I know, it's so funny on this, not well trodden path. I'm sure it's more well trodden now that the book was so popular, but Meridian's probably just out there in the middle of the woods with some, boyfriend she had at the time or whatever. But I do remember her talking about that now on some other show, but that is wild.
Isn't it?
That is so crazy. It's so cool. And I can only imagine you'd come home and not be able to sleep in your bed. I wonder how long that took her to kind of like.
That was in the early 70s before she said all Wi-Fi and all that.
Isn't that crazy? Yeah.
Yeah. It kind of reminds me of that book, The Raw Family or whatever.
Oh, yeah.
They traveled, or they, as
was
a
it
family.
Butancos?
Yeah, the Butancos from San Diego to New York just walked it as a family. It took them 5 years or something.
Sign us up.
Yeah.
We should do it with babies on our back and dog leashes in our hands.
Think the pups could make it?
I think they could walk to New York for sure. All 10 pounds of them.
Yeah.
2 feet, what are they, 4 inches off the ground? They could do it.
But it's interesting. She said that's when she felt the most healthy and the most alive.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Now, can you say that, maybe that was because she was younger and all of that? I don't know. I mean, all I know is that the more time you spend outside, the better. And the more healthier and vibrant you feel.
It brought back a memory to me when she was talking about that, how she said she went into like a bathroom mirror and was like, wow.
Oh, laughing?
Yeah, laughing, going, look at me, like, look at who I've become. Like, I'm tying my pants. I'm this person, this creature that didn't exist before. Because, I mean, yeah, you are. You don't really, you go into just like camp mode. You're not looking at yourself. You're not caring about what you look like.
Yeah.
But it reminded me of like these canoe trips I'd take as a teenager, and we go down the Colorado River for a week. And we'd camp each night and, set up camp and pack it up, put it in our canoes and our kayaks, whatever. I guess they were canoes, and just go from place to place. And I remember you'd get to the end. We'd cover like, I don't know, it was like 20 or 30 miles. I mean, it wasn't a whole lot, but when you're a teenager, that seems like a really... Was
the full duration, or that's what you did per day?
No, that was like the full duration.
Okay.
But I mean, you're a kid with like...
That's a long time though. 30 miles.
Oh yeah, it was really neat. You look at a map afterward and be like, wow, we went from there to there, and we started at the Hoover Dam and go down, and just, it was so priceless, those memories and the feel of being in nature. Maybe 3.
3? But
at the very end, you'd come to this dock, when you were done and ready to ditch your canoes, and they had like a little general store with ice cream, and nothing ever tasted so good because you'd been in the dirt.
Nothing like ice cream like that. After
like a chocolate-covered ice cream and like ices and and it was hot because it's like Arizona or Nevada, wherever you are.
Yeah.
And we'd go in there, and there was a bathroom, and you'd go in, and you're like, I've never been so toned and sunned and feeling so good, and my skin, for some reason, looks so amazing after living in the dirt for a week. And there was just something, you'd look in the mirror, and you'd feel like, who is that person? Like, you had a...
And you remember having those thoughts then?
As a teenager, yeah, going, wow, I'm like a different person. Like you felt something shifted being in nature, just even that week in your soul that you thought it's radiating out of my eyes different, and my skin, when she was talking about that, I just had all those memories flood back of what that felt like.
Wow.
It was pretty cool.
I think there's a combination between, being a kid and that carefree attitude you have, and the not knowing that you need to pay bills, and you have like, it's the beginning of April, so I've got 2 more weeks to do my taxes. So you
Right.
don't think like that.
Right.
So you have that, right? You have this carefree attitude. But then you also have the effect of doing something outside that's fun.
Right.
Like when I was a kid, I'd go skating, and my friends and my brother would go skate for like 8 hours. We'd be gone. We'd leave in the morning, and we would just cover like 10 miles or something. And we would just stop at different people's houses. We'd stop and get like at a convenience store and go get some Snickers and, some Coke. And we just skate all day, every day, skating different areas and ramps. And we'd meet people and other skaters. And you're doing something fun. You're outside and you're doing something fun. But then you also have the idea that like now, kids that do stuff like that are indoors. They're playing video games indoors. They're doing something fun, which is great. They're carefree, which is great, but they're indoors.
Right.
And not only are they indoors, but they're looking into blue screens and all that. So we have this benefit of like being outside, doing something fun, and being carefree.
Such a golden time, huh?
Yeah, like there's something about that, and like
I know.
trying to recapture that or not allow the modern living. Like you and I are indoors right now. As soon as we're done, I'm going to go outside for a second.
Right. Me
just
too.
To reset, but. I don't know. There's something about being outdoors and doing something fun that we need to reconnect with as adults.
I think it's cool, like that we can, that we're aware enough of that to try to foster that in our kids, the love of that. I mean, I think that kids, like Meridian was saying, the first 7 years they pick up on, the security and the things that you expose them to, and the love and just all this stuff, and they feel. I just go, gosh, like yeah, kids gonna like what they're gonna like, but man, if they see their parents loving being outside or going to a farm or petting a sheep or like, going horseback riding or going to Tahoe and going camping. Like, I just really feel like those are some ways to bring back an experience that seems to be so lost these days,
And reconnecting. I mean, how great do you feel on that hike in Lake Tahoe?
Oh.
On that big mountain that we put some on our Instagram, but
Squaw Valley, isn't it?
The Squaw Valley hike. I mean, that just
took us like
so
4
good.
hours, and you just feel like you just accomplished, like you might as well have just climbed Everest. That's how happy you are. At the end of it, you're just you earned something,
and you feel so good.
Oh, it feels so good.
And the mountain air and the streams, all the rivers are going up that mountain, and there's something about that. And the more we spend time inside as a culture, it's not good.
No, it's not.
We had someone in our academy the other day talking about that, and he was asking like ways to mitigate the EMF and stuff living in a 40-story
high rise in
Chicago, and I just, it's something that you don't want to hear, but we just told them, like, you have to
reassess your life.
I mean, come up, if you're living in an environment like that, I think you should be like, okay, what's my 5-year plan to get out?
Right.
Because I realize with a lot of people, it's like, okay, I got my family here. If they don't want to move, blah, blah, blah. I got my job. I got all these important things. What's my 5-year plan of getting out?
Sure.
Whether that's starting a business that allows you to get out of that job, or working at another job, or changing careers, or moving houses. Like, what's your 5-year plan?
It's not for the weak, and you have to be really, really like keep the beauty of the goal in front of you at all times, because it's so easy to just stay stuck, But I did it.
Yeah, look at you with what happened to you.
I was sharing yesterday when we were in our little garden outside watering, and I said, I remember the first time one of the first practitioners I worked with as a holistic practitioner, she told me there's 2 things you really need to do to cure, because I was having all kinds of liver problems, and
I remember.
I was in a toxic environment for at that time 14 years or whatever at the hair salon, working my butt off and just being really unhealthy under fluorescent lights with chemicals, and it was just
fast food fast, right?
Yeah, just throwing down pizza every day at lunch and just not even chewing. I mean, it was just I was just a perfect combination for a mess,
Yeah, I'm so glad.
I remember she looked at me and she's like, okay, first of all, how can you get out of your career? You need to quit your job. And I was like, quit my job? Like, she doesn't understand. Like, you're working on getting like your own thing going. I'm the breadwinner right now. I can't quit my job. I remember just thinking like, I'll do your liver cleanse, but I can't quit my job. That's impossible.
Right.
You know?
Right.
You're just starting the show.
Right. And that was a huge leap too, because I walked away from a career that was well paying. And,
right.
Yeah.
It was huge. And then she also said, the other thing is your hormones are all messed up. You need to get off birth control. And I thought, this lady's crazy. What other options are there? I mean, at this point, I was a little bit aware of, you know, how your body works and stuff.
Were you on birth control at the time?
I was, yeah.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. And I was only on it for like a total of 5 years, maybe. But I had all kinds of stuff, you know. But I thought, gosh, like, how do I trust this process? And yeah, you're right. Somehow we came up with a plan over the next, I think maybe 3 years, and both those things happened. I mean, I got off birth control right away, which was
crazy.
Super scary.
That was scary and crazy.
Super scary for me and crazy, and we had to figure out something else. And you know, but I got to know my body, and sure enough, we had all those years. I mean, we what was that, 2000 and
yeah? What did you see her?
11 or 12?
Was it?
Yeah, and I mean, we just got pregnant this last year, 2017. I mean, that's pretty good. We figured it out, you know?
Yeah.
But it does require work, and it required me, both of us, to sacrifice a lot, and me to really value what I was going to get in return. And I did. I mean, I really, my blood work, I mean, I had my challenges, but stuff really did shift around, and I felt really good for a while. I changed my diet completely. That's when I cut out all gluten, and yeah, it was quite a journey. But man, when people ask you or suggest the hard changes, the pushback at the beginning is just, you're like, you want to put your hands up and be like, oh, I can't do that. It's too hard.
Yeah. It's tough.
It's hard. It's not for the weak, but man, is it for the, like, in the long run, you just see these things that are just awesome.
Way better.
I think it's cool.
Because you can't live in an environment like that. Because what a lot of people focus on, like I said, is the food. But it's our environment that may even be a more determining factor on the level of health we have. And so it's like living in a 40-story building like that in the middle of a city is going to be probably worse for you than eating a pizza and drinking Coke and eating Twinkies. Like it's really bad, and people do not understand just how bad it is to live in that kind of environment, let alone the stress and the EMF and the blue light and the disconnection from the earth. I mean, that stuff is it's literally degening our genes. That's why we're having degenerative diseases. And so it's like, you don't want to hear that, because it's like, you know, it's one thing for me. Like when I was starting to switch over, I thought, okay, like I could work out. Working out's easy. Like for me, I was disciplined. I could work out, go to the gym. And then it was like, wow, when I started changing my diet, I found like, man, it is so hard. Diet is way more difficult than working out. Like,
isn't that funny?
Working out, I can go to a gym and lift heavy weights, and it's like, okay, after an hour, I'm done.
Right.
I don't have to lift those weights anymore. Or after this set, I'm done.
But eating is like a 24-hour thing, like all day, all year, like forever.
You're thinking about it. You're cooking with it. You're shopping for it. You're going to the thing. And you're thinking about it, putting recipes together, craving it.
When do I eat next? You're focused on it.
Yeah, it's all day long, every day. And then once you tackle that, the most hard thing is your environment.
Right.
Like, how do we get away from all this stress? You know, like what she was talking about. Like, what if we did go live in the woods? What's that movie? Hunger Games style.
Yeah,
you know?
Totally. Had to survive and figure out how to make it all work. Oh.
I mean, just trying to mimic that as much as possible and exposing yourself to as much outside wild time as possible.
Wild time, I like that.
Yeah, wild time.
Wild time. We got to go get some wild time.
These are wild times.
These are wild time. The more wild the times are, the more you need wild time.
That's so true.
Isn't it true, though?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm with you, though. It's funny to look throughout the years and look back and take stock of your life and go, wow, like that used to be me, or wow, I'm glad that's not me, or...
Imagine had you continued down the path you were going down.
Yeah, I don't know what would have happened.
It would have
been very bad. And
less than good.
And since then, unfortunately, I've known a few people at salons that have died from all kinds of weird cancers, and I feel like it was a just total blessing in disguise. And then also just be able to have those years, like Meridian was saying, like be able to prepare, you know? So now I don't feel like I'm baking totally toxic babies. Like, you know, I haven't been perfect on this pregnancy at all. I've cheated with my diet and things like that at times when you just want to survive and you're not feeling like eating anything else, and stuff I wouldn't eat in my quote real life. But man, I feel like the work that I did leading up to it has just been valuable.
Massive,
you know?
yeah.
That was fun.
Yeah, that was fun. That was fun. That was
like
cool.
every pregnant person, I got to go pee.
That's right. All right, guys. Well, thanks for listening. Thanks for being a part of everything we have going on. A number of different ways you can support us if you would like. We would appreciate that. You can always go through our link on Amazon on extremehealthradio.com, and anytime you're going to make an Amazon purchase, go through our link first and give us some support that way. Nothing changes for you. Prices are the same, and the only difference is that we get a little commission for your order. So if you can do that on every purchase you make, that would be cool. Let's see what else. There are other ways to support us. A lot of people are doing the Patreon thing, and so they're supporting us by like sending, a couple bucks a month on Patreon. That is really supportive. So the more of you guys that can do that, the more we can do free shows like this. And then we have our store, which is really great. Lots of really high-level products in our store, like the sauna that we talk about, the rebounder, this IMRS machine that we have that emits pulsed electromagnetic fields. We're going to working on getting a red light device. We have these blue blocking glasses. Lots of really cool stuff in our store. So if you're ever in the market for stuff, check out our store first. That's another way to support us. And you can also just share our shows on Facebook. That's really helpful too. But the biggest and best probably way is if you guys want access to really high-level stuff that we're doing with Dr. John Bergman. We're releasing a course a month, and you guys get to vote on the courses. So if you guys want to join the Extreme Health Academy, that would be amazing. So you can do that by going to extremehealthacademy.com. There's monthly prizes, giveaways, there's discounts. We're doing seasonal cleanses as a group. We're going to be starting the Juva cleanse here pretty soon as a group, so that's going to be fun. And it's just a great community in there. So lots
Isn't
of people.
It?
Yeah.
I know. Good vibe.
Good vibe. We do a monthly members
Super
hangout.
positive.
We answer your questions every month. It's really cool.
And I just want to thank our newest Patreon, Mac Connor.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, thanks, Mac. He did it
Not Conor McGregor.
Yesterday.
From the UFC,
No,
but
that's true. That's very close. That's super cool. I like to think we don't do enough shows these days. We will.
Yeah.
We've been working on the Academy so much, but I just want to give a shout out to him. That was cool. Thanks a lot for supporting us.
Yeah, thanks guys for listening. We love you, and
yes, we do.
Catch you guys on the next episode.
No material on this blog is intended to suggest that you should not seek professional medical care. Always work with qualified medical professionals, even if you educate yourself in the field of live food, nutrition, and alternative medicine. I'm not a doctor, nor am I offering readers medical advice of any kind.